The family gathering wasn't supposed to be dramatic this year. It was my dad's retirement party, and for once, I hoped we could act like a normal family. The event was held at a rented lakeside hall, decorated with gold balloons and banners that said, "Cheers to the next chapter!" I arrived with a small smile, clutching a gift bag that held something special. A reservation I'd prepaid for my parents at their favorite Italian restaurant. The one they always talked about, but never actually visited. It felt like a simple, kind gesture. A way to celebrate them quietly without turning it into a competition. As soon as I stepped inside, I could hear laughter echoing off the walls, smell roasted chicken and champagne. And for the first time in years, I felt almost hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, it would be different this time. My younger sister Hannah was spinning around the room in a bright coral dress, her hair styled perfectly, like she was the main character in some feel-good commercial. Everyone was drawn to her like moths to a flame. She had a gift in her hands. A large picture frame wrapped in gold paper, and tied with an oversized bow. I thought it was over the top but typical Hannah. Dramatic, performative, charming. I spotted my mom laughing with her friends near the dessert table, and my dad, now retired after 35 years as a high school principal, seemed lighter than I'd seen him in ages. I wanted to believe that maybe we'd reached a new chapter too. But when Hannah grabbed the microphone, I felt my stomach twist. "Sorry, everyone," she said with that humble giggle that always meant she'd been planning this moment for weeks. "I just have something small for Mom and Dad." Everyone quieted down as she handed them the frame. My mom unwrapped it, and the crowd all wowed. It was a college of pictures. Family vacations, birthdays, and Sunday dinners. Except it was only of them and Hannah. Not a single photo of me. Not one. My mom blinked, then smiled proudly. She stood up, raised her champagne glass, and said, "This is the daughter who's always been there for us. Who's always loved us unconditionally." There was laughter, clapping, even a few cheers. And then, just as I was thinking maybe she'd stop there, she added with a chuckle that somehow cut sharper than glass, "The other one, well, she's always been a bit too busy to help." The room went silent. People shifted uncomfortably, pretending they hadn't heard it. But they had. 50 pairs of eyes flickered between us, some pitying, some confused. My heart pounded, but I didn't say a word. I didn't cry or argue or make a scene. I just placed my glass on the table, grabbed my purse, and walked out. No goodbyes, no explanations. Just quiet steps toward the parking lot. The cold air hit my face, and it was like something inside me cracked wide open. I'd paid their mortgage, their utilities. I'd been the one sending money every month. When Dad's pension paperwork got delayed, when Mom's medical bills piled up. For 8 years, I'd quietly carried their financial weight while Hannah followed her passions. But that night, in front of everyone, my parents erased me. I drove home in silence, the radio off, just the hum of the tires on the road and the list forming in my head. Every bill I'd covered, every time I'd said yes while they pretended not to notice. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I wasn't even angry. I was empty. I made tea, sat on my couch, and finally admitted something I'd been avoiding for years. No matter what I gave them, it would never be enough to make me visible. That night, I decided it was over. The next morning, my phone started buzzing at 6:00 a.m. First Mom, then Dad, then Hannah. I ignored them all. By 8:00, there were 27 missed calls. By noon, 38. Around 1 p.m., I finally answered Hannah's, just to hear what lie she'd start with. "Oh, thank God. Rachel," she breathed. "We didn't know where you went. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said flatly. "Why are you calling?" "We can't check into the hotel," she said, panicked. "Something about a declined card. Mom's freaking out." I sipped my tea. "That makes sense," I said. "The card on file was mine." "Wait, what?" I canceled it. There was silence. "Why would you do that?" "Because last night Mom stood up in front of 50 people and said I've never lifted a finger," I said calmly. "So, I decided to make it true," she gasped. "You canceled the whole trip?" "Yep. Hotel, dinner, boat reservation, all of it. The cabin too." It was in my name? They don't have anywhere to stay? Then you should help them, I said. After all, you're the daughter who's always been there. And before she could respond, I hung up. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. Not triumph. Just silence. The kind that comes when you finally stop trying to prove your worth to people who never wanted to see it. After hanging up on Hannah, I put my phone face down and just listened to the quiet hum of my apartment. It was eerie, like the silence after a storm, but instead of chaos, there was calm. I poured myself another cup of tea, opened my laptop, and started going through every auto payment I'd been making for my parents for years. Mortgage, cancelled. Utility autopay, deleted. The emergency credit card I'd given them for unexpected costs, deactivated. I even called the grocery service I used to order for them every week and closed the account. It wasn't out of spite, it was clarity. They said I'd never lifted a finger, so I was finally done lifting anything at all. Within an hour, my bank dashboard looked cleaner than it had in years. It was like scrubbing off a layer of guilt I didn't even realize I'd been carrying. I wasn't angry. Not really. I'd been angry before, when they'd forgotten my promotion party, when they'd asked me to cover Hannah's tuition because you're doing so well, sweetie. This time wasn't anger. It was acceptance. Around 3 p.m., Hannah called again. I ignored it. Then she texted, "They can't get home, Rachel. The hotel says the reservation was cancelled and they're stranded." I typed back, "That sounds like something a loving daughter would handle." Then I muted her number. By evening, my dad tried calling. He didn't leave a voicemail, but I knew what it would say. Something about how Mom didn't mean it. That she just got caught up in the moment. Maybe that would have worked when I was younger. When I was still desperate for approval, but not anymore. By nightfall, I was sitting by the window, watching the lights flicker across the lake near my apartment. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty for not fixing something. The next morning, I woke up to an email from the bank. Unsuccessful payment attempt, joint account access locked due to security verification. I smiled. I hadn't even realized how many of their bills were connected to that account until I saw the notifications start rolling in. Failed payment. Overdue. Service paused. It wasn't revenge. It was gravity. Everything they'd relied on me for was collapsing, and they were finally feeling the weight I'd carried alone for almost a decade. That evening, around 900, there was a knock at my door. When I checked the peephole, my stomach flipped. It was my mother. Behind her, my dad stood with his arms folded, not angry, just uncomfortable, like he'd rather be anywhere else. I opened the door a few inches. "Can we come in?" she asked, voice trembling. "No," I said quietly. "We can talk here." She shifted awkwardly, glancing down the hallway as if embarrassed to be seen outside my apartment. "We just want to clear the air," she said. "I'm sure," I replied. "What happened at the party? You mean when you stood in front of everyone and said your other daughter never lifted a finger?" She flinched. "It wasn't meant that way." "Then how exactly was it meant?" I asked. "It was a joke," she said. The wine was flowing, everyone was laughing. "I didn't realize it would hurt you." I raised an eyebrow. "That's funny, because it didn't sound like a joke. It sounded like the truth you've been whispering for years." Finally made it out loud. My dad spoke up for the first time. "We appreciate everything you've done," he said. "You didn't have to, but you did." "You're right," I said. "I didn't have to, but I did it because I thought that's what family meant. Turns out, I was wrong." My mom's eyes watered. "Rachel, please. We didn't mean to erase you. We love you." I almost laughed. "You love the version of me that keeps the lights on and the bills paid. You don't love me enough to give me a single line in your little speech." She didn't respond. She just looked at the floor, her voice trembling. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," I said. "That's the whole point." The silence stretched between us like a wall. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. I just closed it, slowly, firmly. The sound of the latch clicking was louder than any argument we could have had. 2 days later, Hannah showed up unannounced. I found her sitting on the steps outside my apartment building, sunglasses on, clearly frazzled. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she said as I approached. "You've ruined everything for them." "Did I?" I asked calmly. "Or did I just stop fixing the things they broke?" "They're terrified, Rachel. They can't pay the bills. Mom's crying every night. Dad's furious." I tilted my head. "And you?" "I'm stuck in the middle," she snapped. "You always are, right?" I said. "The golden child caught between your generosity and their guilt." She looked like she wanted to argue but didn't. "You could at least help them one last time," she said. "They're your parents." "And what have they done for me, Hannah?" I asked. "You got applause for a college. I got a decade of debt. You got affection. I got invoices. So no, I'm good." Her lip quivered. "You're punishing them." "No," I said softly. "I'm teaching them." Then I turned, walked inside, and let the door close behind me. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in years. No guilt. No buzzing phone. No pretending everything was fine. Just quiet. Steady peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop lifting a family that never once offered you a hand. The next few weeks were strangely peaceful. My phone stopped vibrating with endless family updates, and for once, I wasn't being dragged into every crisis. No more calls about their Wi-Fi bill or last-minute cash transfers for emergencies. My evenings belonged to me again. I poured that energy into my work at the studio, where we were producing a short documentary about resilience and second chances. It was ironic, really, spending my days telling other people's stories about overcoming neglect, while mine was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. My coworkers noticed the change. "You look lighter," my editor Zoe said one morning as she handed me a cup of coffee. "Did you finally take a vacation?" "Something like that," I smiled. In a way, I had. A vacation from guilt. From obligation. From being the invisible backbone of a family that only noticed me when something needed fixing. 2 months passed before I heard from anyone again. Then, out of nowhere, I got a text from Hannah. Mom had to sell her jewelry. It read, "Dad's car got repossessed. They're falling apart. Are you happy now?" I stared at the message for a while. Happy? No. That wasn't the right word. Relieved? Maybe. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was truth finally landing where it belonged. "They'll manage," I replied. "They always said they didn't need me." She didn't answer. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights shimmer like 1,000 little truths. I thought about calling them, just to see how they were, but then I remembered all the times they hadn't shown up for me. My graduation, my promotion. Even when I was sick and hospitalized after overworking myself, they'd sent a text that said, "Hope you get better soon, love you." That was it. No visit, no check-in. So why now? Why did I owe them my compassion when they never offered me theirs? Still, a part of me, maybe the part that hadn't completely hardened, wanted closure. So I called Hannah the next day. She answered on the first ring. "Rachel?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "I've been thinking. Maybe it's time we talked, all of us." There was a pause. "They're not doing well," she said softly. "Dad lost his consulting clients. Mom's embarrassed to show her face at the club. So they're human now," I muttered. "Good for them." "Rach, come on," Hannah said. "You made your point." I hesitated, then exhaled. "Fine, dinner, neutral place. Tomorrow night." We agreed to meet at a small Italian restaurant, halfway between my apartment and their neighborhood. When I walked in, I saw them already seated. Mom staring at the tablecloth, Dad pretending to scroll through his phone, Hannah looking exhausted. I sat down across from them. No hugs, no smiles, just quiet. The waiter came and took our orders, sensing the tension. Once he left, my mom looked up. "You look good," she said softly. "You've lost weight." "It's called peace," I said. Hannah winced, but my mom didn't react. "We wanted to apologize," she said. "Things have been hard." "You mean since your financial assistant quit?" I asked. "Rachel," my dad said, his tone sharp. "That's not fair, isn't it?" I asked. You both made it very clear who mattered. I just adjusted my behavior to match yours. He sighed. We were wrong, he said. We shouldn't have said what we did at the party. It wasn't just what you said, I replied. It was what you showed me. Over and over again. Who you celebrated. Who you supported. Who you forgot. My mom's eyes filled. I never forgot you. You forgot to love me, I said simply. The table went silent. For a long moment, none of us spoke. Then Hannah finally whispered, "Can we just stop fighting? Please. We're a family." I looked at her. Families don't have favorites, Hannah. They don't use one child and worship the other. It wasn't like that, she insisted. Then explain it, I said. Why did I get silence while you got applause? Why did I pay the bills while you got praise? She didn't answer. She couldn't. We can't change the past, Dad said quietly. But maybe we can start over. I almost laughed. Start over. You had 30 years to get it right. The waiter returned with our food, breaking the tension momentarily. We ate in silence. My mom picked at her pasta. My dad cleared his throat like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. Finally, I set down my fork. I'm not here for revenge, I said. I'm here because I need you to know I'm done being the background character in my own life. My mom nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? I asked. Because understanding means you don't ask me to come back. You don't expect me to fix this. You just accept that I'm free. Her lip trembled. Free from what? From you? I said softly. They both froze. I'll always be grateful for what you gave me, I continued. But I can't keep giving to people who never saw me. Then I stood, placed a few bills on the table for my meal, and walked out before they could respond. As I stepped into the cool night air, I felt a strange mix of grief and freedom. Like mourning a home I'd already moved out of years ago. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't replay the conversation or wonder if I'd been too harsh. I just sat in bed, staring at the ceiling, realizing that closure doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes, it looks like walking away quietly, leaving the door unlocked, but never going back through it. A month passed after that dinner. No calls, no texts, no sudden knocks on my door. The silence didn't hurt anymore, it healed. My world grew smaller but brighter. I started sleeping better, eating better, even laughing more. I poured myself into my work, and the studio's latest project, a docuseries on women rebuilding after betrayal, was becoming something special. When my boss, Zoe, pulled me into her office and said, "We want you to direct the final episode," I froze. Direct. Not assist. Not support. Lead. You earned this, she said. No one else could tell this story better. I walked out of her office shaking, overwhelmed by something I hadn't felt in a long time: validation. Real, earned, unconditional validation. 2 weeks later, the docuseries premiered. Critics called it raw, authentic, and emotionally devastating. It went viral, landing me interviews, invitations, even a call from a network executive. My phone, once silent from family calls, now buzzed with opportunity, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty answering. The show's final episode, my episode, focused on a woman who rebuilt her identity after her family ostracized her. I'd written every word of her story, like I was bleeding onto the page. The closing line was simple. Some of us don't heal by going back. We heal by never going back. The night it aired, I watched it alone in my apartment, the city lights reflecting off the glass. By the end, I was crying, not because I was sad, but because I realized I had finally told my story, even if no one knew it was mine. The next morning, I woke to hundreds of messages. Strangers thanked me for giving them courage to walk away from families who never valued them. I wasn't alone anymore. Then, around noon, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in weeks. Hannah. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Have you seen the show?" she asked softly. "Yeah," I said. "You wrote it, didn't you?" I hesitated. "It's fiction." "No," she said. "It's you." There was a pause. Mom saw it too. She hasn't stopped crying. I exhaled slowly. That wasn't my intention. Maybe not. Hannah said. But it's what she needed. There was something different in her voice this time. Less defensive. More human. She said she finally understands. She continued. She said she never realized how much she took from you until she saw that story play out. I didn't know what to say. For years, I'd tried explaining my pain to them with words, but it took art. Something stripped of my name. For them to finally see me. She wants to apologize, Hannah said. Again, apologies don't rebuild what's already burned, I whispered. I know, she said. But she's trying. We hung up after a while and I just sat there, phone in hand, processing everything. That night, I received an email. The subject line read, "From Mom." My hands trembled as I clicked it open. It wasn't long, just a few paragraphs. But every word hit like a slow wave. She said she'd watched my episode 3 times. That she'd cried for hours. That she didn't deserve forgiveness but hoped I'd find peace. And then, at the end, she wrote something I never expected. You always lifted us. We just didn't see it. But I see you now, Rachel. Clear as day. And I'm proud of you. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, but because for once, her words were enough. They didn't need fixing. They didn't need a response. They just needed to exist. Weeks passed, and life moved forward. My docuseries was nominated for an award. My studio offered me a creative director position. I even started mentoring interns. Young women who reminded me of myself, before I learned how to stand tall. One evening, I was invited to speak at a women's conference. Standing on that stage, looking at hundreds of faces, I told them what I wish someone had told me years ago. Sometimes, the people you love the most will be the ones who clip your wings. But the moment you stop asking for permission to fly, that's when you finally soar. The crowd erupted. But I didn't smile for them. I smiled for the girl who once sat in the shadows, begging her parents to notice. That night, when I got home, I opened my laptop and started writing a new project. This time, not for anyone else, but for me. A memoir. A truth. I titled the first chapter, "The Day They Called Me Invisible." As the words filled the screen, I realized my story wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about release. Revenge burns, but release heals. I didn't need them to hurt. I just needed them to see. And now they did. A few months later, Hannah sent me a picture. It was Mom and Dad, sitting on a park bench, watching the sunset. Below it, she'd written, "They're proud of you, Rach. They talk about you all the time now." I stared at that image for a long time. They looked older. Softer. Maybe regret had aged them faster, or maybe peace had finally found them too. Either way, I felt something I hadn't in years. Closure. Real, final closure. I typed back, "Tell them I'm doing well. Tell them thank you." No bitterness. No sarcasm. Just truth. I set the phone down, stepped onto my balcony, and watched the same horizon they probably were from across town. The same sun, the same sky, but a different world entirely. For the first time in forever, I felt free. Not from them, but from needing anything more. And that's the thing about stories like mine. They don't end with revenge or grand payback. They end quietly, with peace slipping in where pain once lived. The world didn't need to know my family had finally seen me. I knew. And that was enough.